I haven't actually read from cover to cover, but Stephen Pinker's 2 books where he's saying effectively...
Well, I had him on the show quite recently.
Oh, really?
Yes,
okay.
on
Enlightenment he's
now,
saying,
yes.
Forget all that religion stuff. We invented the real world as it should be in the Enlightenment, and all we have to do is apply that more and more rigorously and just kick that religion stuff into touch. And it's very interesting that some commentators have said, well, if that was going to be the case, it would work in America better than anywhere else, and look at America and what's actually happening, and you'll see that it doesn't. But I think I want to respond with what Pope Benedict said 10 years ago when he was speaking at the United Nations, when he said that the whole idea of human rights is absolutely rooted in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if you try and get the fruits of that without the roots, all you'll get is the thing will collapse into shrill special interest rhetoric, everyone claiming the status of victim and
now,
shouting
when I
stuff,
had
which is exactly what we
well,
are.
of course, but the power of victimhood is again something that is part of the revolutionary inheritance of Christianity.
Yes.
Because that is the point of the crucifixion.
And nobody in Caesar's world would have said, "Oh, I'm a victim, therefore I've got to be prioritised."
So Paul calls it a scandal.
But when I had
absolutely.
Stephen Pinker in the very chair you're
yes.
sitting in right now, Tom Wright, his response to this argument, which at this point was being put by Nick Spencer, who's written a very good book as well on the evolution of the West, making this very argument. His argument was, no, but okay, Christians may have given us some good principles, but all we need to recognise is our universal humanity, that we're part of the same species, we're all sentient. That gives us every grounding we need for treating each other with dignity and human rights.
And who thought like that in the first century? I mean, Paul talking about Adam and Christ, basically.
So are you saying that kind of a belief doesn't simply emerge from a vacuum in a sense?
Well, the idea of universal humanness is something that actually, even in the 18th century, they struggled with. When missionaries went to America and came back arguing about whether the American Indians had souls or not.
Right.
Were they really the same species as us? And then John Wesley and George Whitefield and so on saying, no, these people have to be taught to love God like any of us. And so there's stuff going on there which is, again, rooted in the Christian
and you're
tradition.
part of the pushback on this in a way, aren't you?
I mean, it seems to me that the most influential phrase for understanding why we have a notion of a kind of common humanity is in Galatians, where Paul says, that there is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, and there you have this idea that we are. Of course, he goes on to say in Christ Jesus, and that for the contemporary world is. We just.
That's the bit people want to do without.
But of course, there is an issue there, as Daniel Boyarin, in a fascinated Jewish scholar writing about Paul, says, so Jewishness and Greekness gets dissolved into this universal humanity. But what if I, as a Jew, want to stay a Jew? And so, in a sense, there also you have the kind of, the issues that continue to obsess our society, which is essentially, if you don't want to be part of a kind of universal commonality, what then do you do?
The dangerous thing, I was at a conference in America a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, based on the big book on Paul, and there was an African-American theologian, a woman at Fuller Seminary, who basically pushed back at me on this and said, the danger is that when you say we're all one in Christ Jesus, what that means is that everyone else is an honorary white male,
right.
And the white males have got it, and that everyone else has to say, okay, we're sort of part of your team, as it were. And I said, if that's what you're hearing, that's certainly absolutely not what I was intending, and it's certainly not what Paul was intending either.
For more conversations between Christians and skeptics, subscribe to the Unbelievable podcast. And for more updates and bonus content, sign up to the Unbelievable newsletter.